Hi everyone. Today I'm going to just show you how to make this really inexpensive bead board. Everybody that has these bead boards absolutely love them, but I'm going to do it a cheap and inexpensive way just to make it a small one. Is all I'm going to make is just this one small little bead board, which is the same size mat I use all the time for beading, for filming, for all those kinds of things. And I thought this would be a really cool, fun project for you to do and make lots of them as big as you want. Now I'm just going to tell you what you need. I'm just using a regular bead mat. This is a brand new one, and I am using a hunk of material that I cut in half. It came from Walmart. I'll show you. It's called faux fur. So it came from Walmart and it came 18 by 28. So it was kind of like a rectangle piece, but I kind of need strips for what I have in mind, what I want to do. Not guaranteeing this is going to be perfect, but it'll work. I'm sure it will. So what you need is get your husband or you, cut a piece of wood. What I did is I cut a piece of plywood, which is about 1/2 inch plywood. It's very light. And I sawed off the corners, okay, just so they're nice and, they're not pointy, because I don't want the points cutting into the fabric that we're going to put around the edge to rest our wrist on, and that will be this stuff here. So you're going to need any kind of fabric. I thought this would be good because it's kind of thick and it matches my bead mat. See? Coordinating colors. You're going to need a glue gun, which I've got plugged in. You're going to need an iron. So let me just put my glue gun there so the glue doesn't drip. And I got glue sticks. So you will need a glue gun because we are going to glue this. You may need some fabric glue. I'm going to try fabric glue, but I might not need it. But it's always good to have because this stuff is, well, it's slippery when you're working with it. So you might want to use some fabric glue. Now this stuff here is called our Foam Plus. It's a unique fusible foam stabilizer. I will leave a link in the description box where I bought this, and I got this from Missouri Star Quill Company. And what this stuff is, it's double-sided foam, but it's really it's really good stabilizer. You can iron it to the board and iron it to the fabric, so both sides of it is fusible, which is really, really nice. It's inexpensive. I think I paid like 10 bucks for this package. But I will leave a link down below for you to get this stuff if you want to use this. If not, you can use some kind of thick foam if you have some thick foam. But it needs to all be level because your bead mat needs to be level. You don't want your beads rolling because this side's higher than this side. You want it to stay flat. I will need my sewing machine. I do have it out because I will have to sew. Because like I said, I took that piece of rectangle material, cut it in a lengthwise strip, because this is how long it was. So I cut it in a lengthwise, and I need to sew it together here because it's not long enough to go around my bead board. So I'm just going to give this a quick sew with my sewing machine, and I pinned it and it's crooked. But it does, this stuff does go crooked. This is nasty stuff to work with. I would never want to make any kind of project that required everything to line up with this thing. So I'm just pushing myself over here to my sewing machine, and like I said, I'm just going to give this a quick sew. I'm going to sew it 1/4. Oh, and you're going to need an iron and an ironing board because this stuff here is activated with a hot iron and not steam, but I use steam anyway. Okay, so I'm just over here giving this a quick sew. You guys don't need to see me sewing a 6-inch piece of material. And I'm I'm sewing it with white thread on a brown piece of material, but I don't really care. It's just a bead board. It's a craft project, and it's a do-it-yourself project. Imagine that. All right. So now let's get this sewing machine out of my way, because it kind of is. All right. So now what we need to do is press this seam open, so we're gonna have nice. Oops! I didn't even turn my iron on. Shoot. Okay, let me move this cord before I trip myself and kill myself. Oh, I need to unplug this because they are in my way. Oh, all right. Now, let me turn my iron on quickly. So, what we're going to do, now like I said, I just cut a board big enough to fit my one bead mat, because I'm not going to go out and buy a whole special material. I know they use this, I don't know, special kind of fabric, but I'm just using this stuff. Like I said, it's just a cheap, inexpensive way. Use what you have on hand. So I'm just roughly going to measure all the way around my board, roughly. As you can see, I'm not using any measuring tape or anything. The length, approximate length I need. So I don't like this end. I'm probably going to cut that off, because that's the salvage edge. So yeah, I'm going to cut that off, because it's really a crappy edge. All right. So I'm just cutting the salvage edge off. All right, so now you're just going to kind of take your fabric around like this, and just to do a rough estimate. So that's about the longest piece I'm going to need. So I'm just going to hack it off. It's not straight by no means, see? I just hacked it off. And I'm going to keep this piece of scrap, because I will need it. Now, this is going to be the hard part. The hardest part is going to make that little roll to put around your bead board. But first and foremost, we need to put something on the back of our board to make it nice and smooth. So I am going to put a piece of this foam stabilizer on the back, but I am going to put a piece of fabric on the back of my board so it stays, and I want to glue it all the way around on here before I actually glue anything onto here. So let me get a piece of fabric, which I have all kinds of fabric. I need a brown one. Actually, it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to pick a fat quarter of, there we go. Here's a brown and beige piece of fat quarter. This'll work. This'll work. There we go. There's a fat quarter. We'll use that for our back. So a fat quarter is usually 18 by 24 or 18 by 22 piece, I mean. And we're just going to cover the back. But first, let's get our foam going here. Let me show you this. This is 18 by 58 inches long. So this stuff is really nice. I made an ironing board with it, my own ironing board for my quilting. So look at this, it's nice and long. It's a nice, huge, long piece. And we need to cut, whoops, let me just show you here. Let's move my board out of the way. So we need to cut a piece long enough to reach to the end of our, so I'm just measuring out roughly. Oh. Well, I'm not measuring roughly. I don't want to waste this stuff. So I am just going to cut it. Okay, so I'm going to snip it here. let me fold this. So I'm at my end here. So I'm going to cut this like so. Kind of straightened up that edge. All right, and then I'm going to move this. Then I'm going to actually fold my foam stabilizer in half. You can cut this with a rotary cutter, by the way. And then I'm going to fold it again, making sure all my edges are straight here, okay? So that's, so they all line up nicely. Which, that's not, there we go. That is, that is, that is. And that is, and that is. All right. Now, going to cut probably about there. So I'm just cutting it under, just a little bit under what I'm using here. All right, now I'm going to open it up because I don't want to hack all that right off. I don't cut very straight with scissors. That's why I use rotary cutters. All right, there's our piece of foam that we need, which is super crooked. Okay, anyway, that's all right. Now we need a piece for the back of our piece of wood. So let me see if I have a big enough piece here. Not really, but it's gonna have to do because I'm not gonna get another sheet out. Let me see, is there a bigger piece here? So I'm just, yep, perfect. This one's gonna fit perfect. So now let me just trim a piece from my board. So this is the piece I need for my strip. Now I'm just measuring this out, and I'm going to trim this off because we want to have some foam on the back so it's nice and cushiony kind of thing, right? All right, so there, that's perfect. Now I'm going to give this a little spray, but first of all I got to cover my area. So I'm just going to spray the board so I can put this on without it moving, because then I am going to iron it and it should stay, but there's no guarantee. So I'm just going to stick this underneath the piece of fabric. This is a fabric glue that you buy from Walmart. It is called 505. I've used it in a lot of my quilting tutorials. It's actually what I use to spray base. Okay, so look at that. It's going to stay. Okay. Now, basically, you want to trim off all the edges so it's, you know, a little decent, even though it's a craft project. So I'm cutting off my little corners here. So this is going to give it some cushion, and it feels kind of nice. Now we're going to sit this piece of fabric on top, and then we're going to take this to the ironing board. And what I would like to do is this, glue this on, but mitering the corners. I have to cut the corners out, okay, because we don't want this bulk of fabric in here. All right, so let's get this ironed first. And we got to iron this piece to this. Now, when you iron your this piece, leave this piece sticking out, that's okay. When you iron this piece to this piece, you're going to iron it on a piece of parchment paper underneath, because this is double-sided. As soon as the heat touches this, the glue is going to release. So you might not want to do that on your table or your ironing board, because this glue will be on your ironing board and you don't want to touch it with your iron because it'll stick to your iron. So let's see. All right, I got to make some adjustments here because I got to move my ironing board over here so you guys can see what I'm doing. And my ironing board's over there, so I have to move it. And there's a scrap piece, keep it, you might need it someday. And before we put our piece down, we need another piece of foam for on top of our bead mat, or underneath our bead mat. So let me grab another piece of this foam, because this is going to hide everything underneath. But this is going to keep our bead mat nice and smooth and straight. So I'm just going to cut a rough piece for the top. So I've got another piece of foam. And when all's said and done, we are going to fix the bead mat to this piece of foam. And then we're going to stick it on here. And then this is going to be really nice and cushiony. Except for these edges. But, oh yeah, the edges will, because we're going to have a thing around it that we're going to glue all the way around, seal it really, really good, so none of our beads can roll off underneath that ring. You'll see what I'm trying to get at. But I'll be back because I'm getting my ironing board.